Hey guys, Marcus Melnick here with Firearm Mentor. Hope you're enjoying my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. These little things are free to you and really help the channel. I appreciate your support. Enjoy. Thank you.
The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Greetings and welcome back to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Stress to Logic and Firearm Mentor, where we train people to be ready, remain safe, stay sharp, and train for the moment that matters. I would like to address something that's in the firearms news these days, and that is about Glock. People have heard in the news about these Glock switches, which are actually being ordered from overseas. It's a replacement part for the back of the slide, and it turns a normal semi-automatic pistol into a machine pistol. I have never seen one in person, only online, only on YouTube, and only on the news. But since these are coming into the country and they are finding their ways into the hands of nefarious characters, there's a ton of lawsuits out there. So, with that said, Glock is discontinuing almost every one of their pistols. Let me give you the details, and then I got a little bit of inside information that might be helpful in understanding this. So on October 20th, the founder and CEO of the Glock store, which is one of the largest Glock retailers in the country, posted a video on YouTube saying that Glock would soon be discontinuing nearly all of its older pistols to introduce the new V-Series models. He said that the new models will have improved triggers and slides, which he speculated will prevent Glock from accepting a switch that will convert it to full auto. In recent years, Glocks illegally converted into DIY machine guns using small, easy-to-print 3D devices known as Glock switches have caused terror throughout the country, as cities have seen an explosion of these machine guns being used in all manners of violent crime. Shortly after the announcement, a Reddit user shared a message to gun dealers from the gun distributor Lipsies that appeared to confirm it. The message said that on November 30th, Glock will stop all shipments of Gen 3, Gen 4, and Gen 5 pistols, older models that can be modified with switches. The message also noted that changes to the V-Series pistols included internal slide and trigger improvements. So Glock's bestsellers are going to be re-released under the version V as in Victor. I just find this very interesting because a lot of the companies are now using letters for their models. Beretta 30X, Smith & Wesson Shield X, and Glock 19X. So it's very interesting how these different letters, it's just kind of a trend. And what's going to happen is the V models will be available on shelves December 2025. The V-Series pistols are marked on the slide and framed with a letter V. There is still going to be the Glock 17, 19, 19X, 45, 26, 20, 23, 23 MOS, 21 MOS, 44. And then there's going to be distributor exclusive models like the G19C, G45C, G17C, and G19X VMOS. Very interesting. They're basically going to be the same thing, except you can't put in a Glock switch. And looks like a Gen 5 model, but with the letter V stamped on the slide and Glock frame. And it's kind of a joke where, Glock has a new version, except it's almost exactly the same. Externally, they will retain the same look and performance, and they've only been altered internally. And this past April, just as an aside, Glock discontinued the 34 pistol models shortly after distributors, including the Glock store, leaked that the company will be doing so. And at the time, it said it's reducing its current commercial portfolio in order to focus on products that will drive future innovation and growth, which is kind of a contradiction to what I just said. As of the article I'm going through, Glock has not addressed whether the new V-Series models are compatible with switches, but dude, they gotta be. The news came 10 days after Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law Assembly Bill 1127, which prohibits gun dealers in the state from selling machine gun convertible pistols to civilians if they accept switches and have a Glock-style trigger component called a cruciform trigger bar. Other gun media outlets and insiders have drawn the same conclusion, that the V-Series models are a response to California's new law. However, why don't we actually look at this from a higher level? Nearly 2 years ago, on December 27th, 2023, at the age of 94, Gaston Glock, the inventor of the Glock pistol, passed away. And his engineers have been, and when I say fighting, I don't mean physically fighting, but have been pushing for modern updates on the Glock pistol, like a safety, like other things that other firearms have. And Gaston Glock said, nope, we're going to keep it the way it is. So my viewpoint on this is perhaps they are changing the way that they're doing their designs, because Gaston Glock is no longer alive. And of course, may he rest in peace, may his memory be a blessing. This isn't at all a dig, but with that blocker removed, the company can actually move forward with additional products. So I think it's a combination of these lawsuits that have happened as well as Mr. Glock's passing. With that said, Glocks are very high quality pistols. They're great. They're used by law enforcement and civilians all over the world. So I don't think the quality is going to be changed at all. I just think it'll be a little bit different look as well as internals. Nothing wrong with a Glock, except that it might be that it's ugly. But a Glock isn't a gun you show your friends. A Glock is a gun you show your enemies. We're going to take a quick break. I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRESS, 2LOGIC.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show. In other news, a couple weeks ago in September, the Chicago Police Department wrongfully arrested a CCL holder, and the Cook County State's Attorney approved charges. This is not the first time that I am aware of the Chicago Police Department charging people with crimes that they didn't commit. So we all know the Windy City has its fair share of problems, but a lack of violent criminals is not one of them. All you got to do is take a look at the news. The excess of people is what makes this report on law enforcement actions against responsible gun owners inexplicable, unacceptable, revealing not just egregious violations of constitutional rights, but the needless squandering of police and prosecutorial resources. There's a report out that says black gun owners in Chicago charged with felonies, despite FOID cards, CCLs, say they're traumatized. It arises out of an internal investigation of several alleged instances of law-abiding firearm owners being prosecuted for felonies after being stopped for minor traffic violations. Some background first. The Illinois State Police website explains that to legally possess firearms, Illinois residents must have a FOID card or firearm owner identification card issued by the Illinois State Police. In turn, a valid FOID is necessary to obtain a concealed carry license or CCL. All cards issued by the ISP or Illinois State Police Firearm Services Bureau are now combination cards, meaning it's a FOID with a CCL indicator on it, meaning anyone with a valid CCL has a valid FOID card. A CCL holder who does not have their physical FOID or CCL card with them may produce to law enforcement the digital version of the card or e-card. The card communicates the status of your FOID/CCL in real time and looks like the new combo card. Information about FOID card and concealed carry registration is kept and updated through an electronic data processing center called LEADS, which stands for Law Enforcement Agencies Data Systems, which is a statewide computerized telecommunications system. CBS News reports that the highlights of the case of 46-year-old Louis McWilliams, who was pulled over by Chicago police in April because his vehicle was missing a front plate. Police body cam shows that after the police stopped him, the first thing that McWilliams did was tell the officers he had a gun in the car, and he's seen handling what appears to be his FOID/CCL to the officer. If you go online, you can look up the actual video. McWilliams was nonetheless arrested because officers advised, quote, "We can't verify your concealed carry license in the LEADS system." CBS states that although McWilliams produced a valid FOID CCL card that was retained by officers and formally inventoried in the arrest record, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office approved filing of 2 felony charges against him for aggravated unlawful possession of a weapon and unlawful use of a weapon. McWilliams also had his vehicle impounded, was locked up in jail for a day, and had to spend time and money fighting the felony charges in court. The charges were not dismissed until June, and he's now taking the necessary steps to have the arrest expunged so it doesn't show up in a background check. Despite the court's dismissal of the charges months ago, McWilliams has yet to have the CPD return his legally acquired firearm to him. CBS was unsuccessful in getting the Chicago police superintendent to explain why McWilliams was arrested and charged, and as the official declined an interview. Cook County State's Attorney Eileen O'Neill Burke said to have similarly turned down the opportunity to discuss the decision and proceed with prosecution. The investigators who contacted the Illinois State Police were advised that, while the ISP could not comment on McWilliams' FOID or CCL specifically, charges in an individual's FOID or CCL are uploaded immediately in their database, and all law enforcement will see that change when they run a driver's license check through LEADS. Should an officer indicate that they should not check the status in LEADS, the officer should not take any enforcement action as it relates to a potential FOID or CCL violation. So, that's what the state police is saying. Local cops should not take action if it's not in LEADS. The CBS investigators concluded that it is nearly impossible to know how many drivers are wrongfully charged with unlawful gun possession only to have the charges dismissed. Neither CPD nor the Cook County State's Attorney's Office track this specific data. One of the many concerning elements is the lack of explanation for why the Chicago Police Department officers appeared unable to verify FOID or CCL information using real-time LEADS. In addition to the Illinois State Police that any changes in the FOID CCL status show up immediately, a LEADS bulletin titled FOID and CCL Status Check, issued June 25, 2025, indicates that officers could have verified the information in more than one way. FOID and CCL are automatically checked with every name, gender, DOB, and Illinois driver's license number query. Users can also inquire on FOID and CCL independently through leads regarding the status of an Illinois firearm owner identification card or concealed carry license by the name and date of birth of the FOID or CCL number. Both the National African Gun Association, NAGA, and the Illinois State Rifle Association, or ISRA, have commented on the CBS News investigation. Phil Smith, NAGA founder and president, was quoted in the CBS report saying he was frustrated but not surprised to learn that drivers in Chicago are being charged with felonies despite having valid firearm licenses. He urged black gun owners who've gone through something similar to not feel discouraged from exercising their Second Amendment rights and to take legal action if they feel they've been wrongly arrested. In a separate article, the ISRA, Illinois State Rifle Association, condemned the arrest as discriminatory and a grave injustice and violation of constitutional rights. When properly licensed citizens are handcuffed, booked, and charged for exercising their rights, it undermines public trust and exposes a dangerous double standard. McWilliam himself points to the unfortunate reality that no matter how much you follow a system of which they create, they can still deem you wrong. According to CBS News, he is considering a lawsuit against the CPD, and quite personally, I hope he does it as in a positive. The ISRA is calling for an investigation to determine how such prosecutions occurred and who approved them. And the CBS News report invites others who believe they were wrongfully arrested despite having valid firearm licenses to fill out the firearm traffic stop survey. It's nothing short of mind-boggling to think that there are many more instances of individuals who've successfully navigated every bureaucratic hoop and hurdle that Illinois and Chicago have placed in the way of ordinary citizens lawfully exercising their Second Amendment rights, only to face arrest, prosecution, the stigma of felony charges, and loss of their time, money, and property because the government system isn't working the way it's supposed to. As the ISRA observes, it is a chilling example of how far Chicago's anti-gun bureaucracy has gone in violating constitutional rights. This is actually the second time I've heard of this. I train an armored car company, and they had an employee who was in full uniform on her way to work, carrying a firearm that she needs for her job. She gets stopped and arrested because she had a firearm without a concealed carry permit. Now, luckily, the company had their attorneys go to bat for them, but the state's attorney, which was a previous one at the time, told the company, you need to tell your employees they cannot travel to and from work with a firearm unless they have a concealed carry permit. Otherwise, it has to be locked in the trunk. Now, I get that police officers may not know every single law. I totally understand that. They are not attorneys. However, when you have a process called felony review, which means if you're a police officer and you need to charge someone with a felony, it has to be reviewed by an assistant state's attorney who is assigned to felony review. It's a 24-hour system. People work all night in Cook County, and all the counties, really. And it just shocks the heck out of me that an attorney approved the charges when clearly it was not illegal. That is very, very concerning to me. It continues on, and with J.B. Pritzker going against the law and federal government, however you feel about it or not, he's not playing the game, and things are getting worse in Chicago. I don't care what they say on the news, things are getting worse in Chicago. As a matter of fact, if I don't have to go into the city, I don't, because I manage my risks. And I don't need to, if I can go to a wildfire restaurant in Lincolnshire, as opposed to a wildfire restaurant downtown and pay to park and drive an hour and a half each way, I don't do it. Now, if I have tickets to a Bulls game, that's a different story. But if I can accomplish things not in the city, I accomplish things not in the city. And that's me, a firearms instructor who is managing my own risks. Even though semi-automatic rifles are largely banned in Illinois, unless you were grandfathered in, there are a number of rifles small number of rifles that you can get that certainly falls within the law. So one of them is a Ruger Mini 14 Ranch. It has a 5-round magazine. They come in 5s, 10s. You can't get 20s and you can't get 30s to be legal in Illinois. But in its purest form, it is a Garand-style Ruger, which features a breech bolt locking system and a fixed-position gas system to operate reliably under harsh conditions. And there are scope mounts and a scope ring, so you don't have to lose it. It's 223 or 5.56 NATO. Next, we've got the Henry Homesteader, designed for target use and hunting small game. The Homesteader PCC by Henry can still be purchased to suit Illinois compliance rules. The semi-auto is chambered in 9mm and has just over a 16-inch barrel. And as you'd expect from Henry, the furniture is wood, American walnut, and the barrel is round blued steel. And the ambidextrous bolt handle is a good choice if the shooter is left-handed. Capacity is 10 rounds and it's in 9mm. Then there's the Fight Light Industries SCR. The Fight Light SCR Sport Configurable Rifle is a rugged, reliable, all-weather rifle in the classic lines of an AR-15. Its unique design allegedly permits shipping to an FFL in all 50 states. There are good ergonomics. There's a flat-top receiver that'll accept most optics, night vision, and thermal devices. And it's also multi-caliber and modular, allowing users to change calibers in the field with little effort. The calibers are 223, 5.56 NATO, and 300 blackout with a 5-round magazine. I believe this accepts AR magazines. Then you've got the classic Ruger 1022 carbine with its standard stock barrel and magazines. It's an Illinois-compliant alternative, and it's highly customizable, but the options might get you in trouble, so stick with the factory options and 10-round mag. That said, the 1022 is one of the most popular rifles on the market, has low recoil, is great for plinking targets or hunting small game, and is available in a variety of finishes. As a matter of fact, in the first part of the show, when I talked about the florist who was getting a lesson next to my student, she was shooting a 22 caliber Ruger 1022. If you want to go big bore, you've got the Springfield Armory M1A. Just make sure it's California or New York legal, and you'll pass the Protect Illinois Communities Act, or PICA check, without an issue. You still get a 2-stage military trigger, detachable box magazine, adjustable sights, and the legendary reliability that comes with the M1A. A few variations offer different barrel lengths and finishes to suit your needs. Just be sure it is California and New York compliant, and it's a classic. It's available in 308 Winchester or 7.62mm NATO and has a 10-round magazine. Then you've got the Ruger PC carbine. Looking for a pistol caliber carbine? Look no further than the Ruger PC carbine. If it's featureless, it will be Illinois compliant. In other words, if it doesn't look like an AR-15. The PC carbine features interchangeable magazine well to accept common Ruger and Glock magazines, and integrated features such as its dead blow action and glass-filled nylon synthetic stock helps reduce felt recoil, making it a smooth shooter. There is also a Picatinny rail, adjustable sights, and a light, crisp trigger with ambidextrous controls. That is also in 9mm, and these are regularly available for someone who wants a rifle. And it's not the bill of wants, it's not the bill of needs, it's the bill of rights. So it is my greatest hope, one of my greatest hopes, that this unconstitutional PICA law is overturned, and I'm seeing some progress towards that, although it will ultimately end up at the federal Supreme Court level, and that's an opinion, that's a prediction. I'm not sure that is going to be accurate. With that said, every time we have a concealed carry class or something new comes out or I learn something new, I incorporate it into the class. As a matter of fact, there's a viral video of a police officer in an elevator. He drops his gun. He's plain clothes or off duty. I think he was off duty. and he's fumbling with the gun to put it in his pocket and shoots himself in the gut. One of the things I do is it's a newer video. I now show that video when I talk about reholstering a firearm, because that is the most dangerous part of deployment, is reholstering. Similarly, in a fire situation, firefighters are at the most risk after everything's done. It's called salvage and overhaul, and salvage means they'll go inside and they'll, with a heat sensor gun or thermal gun, they'll see if there's any fire extension. They'll pull out drywall. It's a lot, but there's no danger. Also, rolling hoses. That's where a lot of firefighters get hurt. It's usually a back injury, or they trip or something like that. I don't know if anyone's ever put on fire gear, but it is very clumsy. The boots are heavy as heck. The equipment, if you've ever held the jaws of life, holy cow, these things are heavy, and they have to be. But you have a human being lifting, and if they lift wrong, they blow out a disc. That's what happens. Same thing in self-defense incidents. The most dangerous part, aside from dealing with law enforcement, is actually putting the holster back in your pocket, back in your holster, because what happens is a piece of clothing, a little something gets caught in the trigger. Most people have striker-fired guns these days, and then the gun discharges, hopefully into the ground, but it could be into a body part. I hope you enjoyed this. My website is firearmmentor.com. If you're interested in classes, add /classes to that. We'll be back next week with another episode. So in the meantime, be ready, remain safe, stay sharp, and train for the moment that matters. This is Marcus Melnick signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.